before we offer them a formal invite to speak, one of the final things in the interview is, if everybody in this audience believes what you say, and I'm talking local audience and global audience, and we let them know about our 33 million views. If they listen to your talk and you absolutely persuaded them, what is the action they're going to go and take that will make a difference? So what are they going to say yes to?
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. What if I told you that the difference between a $10,000 and $10 million idea often isn't the idea itself, but how it's presented? In boardrooms and pitch meetings across the globe, brilliant entrepreneurs are watching their dreams slip away, not because their innovations lack value, but because they can't communicate that value effectively. That's why we invited Juanita Wheeler, a master of persuasive communication and the driving force behind TEDxBrisbane, to share her revolutionary approach to presentation strategy. With an Executive MBA, 4 master's degrees, and a track record of transforming over 100 thought leaders into compelling TEDx speakers, Juanita is here to show us why strategic storytelling isn't just a skill. It's the ultimate superpower in today's business landscape.
Juanita, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the lovely introduction.
Absolutely. We're excited about this. This is right up our alley. We agree with you on this stuff. But before we get into it, tell us a little bit about your background. Share with the listeners, what got you into this space to begin with.
Well, I came from a place where public speaking didn't come to me naturally, and I am a screaming introvert. So it really came to this out of necessity. I was seeing ideas that I was putting in writing into proposals or emails or pitches, because writing was my comfort place. I was happy there. And I would go to meetings or water cooler discussions, and I would see that ideas that, quite frankly, were not as good as mine, were getting up purely because someone was prepared to stand up and speak to them in a persuasive manner. And so, I sulked about that for about a month, and then realized that was not helping any but me. It was helping everybody else, and went, okay, no, I need to crack the code on how to do this. And I knew I didn't want to just be a flashy speaker or a charismatic speaker. That's great. Like, giving, wedding toasts and things can be an amazing thing for people. It's a gift, and people can remember that for the rest of their lives if they're the bride and groom. But I wanted to do persuasive speaking. So I'm only interested in speaking where you're trying to get somebody to yes at the end. And so I dove in and I read everything I could find. I'm a complete geek. And so I was looking at the neuroscience and the neuroeconomics behind what makes somebody not just hear a message, but listen and then take action. And then I just used myself as a guinea pig for years, trying everything that I had read, until I finally cracked a code that worked for me. But also then people around me were like, can you teach me how to do that? And so I was. And it was a small part of my business, because I kept finding that it didn't matter how. I came from a background writing strategic marketing plans and strategic plans for organizations, but I found it didn't matter how good those were if somebody couldn't sell it, stand up and sell it. So I started teaching other people to do it. And then I became involved in TEDx and TEDx speaker, speech writing and coaching. And now it's my whole life is helping people to amplify and champion their great ideas.
That's awesome. Yep.
I love that story. Yeah, and you being an introvert is, is shocking, actually, because you've been so awesome in how you portray yourself here. It's hard to believe you were ever an introvert.
Oh, I'm absolutely still an introvert. But people say the same thing that you just said. That's really shocking, or they don't believe me. And my family will say, no. They talk about Juanita is off or Juanita is on, or mum is off or mum is on. And so, learning how to speak well and speak persuasively and present and pitch and champion your ideas, that's a skill set. And I've heard you guys say it previously too. So embrace the skill, do that, and then retreat home, put on comfy pants and jump into Netflix for a while and just no one talk to me. I just need to recharge my batteries. But it's a
Yes.
skill that anybody can learn. But I think it really has helped, particularly for my TEDx speakers and some of the people I coached and write signature keynotes for, who are very introverted and think, oh no, you're either born a good speaker or and a charismatic speaker, or you're not. And I'm like, no.
No.
That's sorry, no, that's wrong. That's a complete misconception. You absolutely can be fabulous at this. It's just a learned skill.
Right. It's just like anything else. So let's jump into that. Like, what would you say is the difference between a compelling TEDx talk and just a keynote speaker?
Well, TEDx Talks is a wonderful and unique beast all of its own. So TEDx Talks are all about the idea. So it doesn't matter, at the start when people are looking to who to put on their stage, as a general rule, we're looking for the idea. So it has to be a new and novel idea. It shouldn't be an idea we've heard 10 times on a TEDx stage before. That person needs to have a brilliant idea. It can't just be a motivating story. One of the great things that TEDx says when they talk about curating is it shouldn't ever be a motivational talk. It can be motivating, but at its core, it should be about a fantastic idea. And so once you've got that idea, that's when you start working with that speaker to work out how to get them to deliver, the best possible TEDx talk. And we work with our speakers for 5 months before they step onto our stage once we've identified them. So I think at the heart, but this is the same for any TEDx or keynote speech as a general rule, the idea has to be there. But TEDx, absolutely, first and foremost, it has to be a brilliant new and novel idea. And then we say to our speakers, it's your job to be an absolute expert and visionary in your subject matter area of expertise. It's our job to then help you give the best possible TEDx talk on the day and learn the skills that will take you forth for the rest of your career to champion that idea. No one is picking you to give a TEDx talk because we think you're a great speechwriter or that you're amazing and inspiring speaker. We're picking you because you have a brilliant idea.
Aha.
Okay.
Very good framework.
And then on the flip side, define a little bit more about a keynote.
Well, keynotes can be very different. That's a great question because keynotes can be different. So sometimes they will be about an idea, particularly if you are, it's a subject matter or an industry-based conference. And they really are, you are being invited there because you have a brilliant idea relevant to that industry. And then they're hoping that you will perform exceptionally well and also be inspiring and motivating. But sometimes the client brief is entirely different. And the keynote will be, we just want you to come and understand the assignment, which is just to kickstart this conference off and be inspiring. We just want everyone to walk away from that event feeling inspired and motivated, and perhaps a little emotional if they want you to tell a compelling story from your life journey. So it doesn't necessarily have to have an idea at its core. So a keynote is really understanding the assignment. What is the client asking you to do? How do they want the audience to feel at the end? And then tailoring your performance. And because public speaking is a performance, if it wasn't, you would send an email. But it's, understand a keynote can have a variety of different purposes. You're there to deliver on what the client is looking for.
Yeah. Got you.
I love best definition I've heard yet of those two, of the difference between those two. Like what you're hearing? Hit that subscribe button and learn how you can change how you're seen and charge what you're worth.
Yeah. So, after coaching well over 100 TEDx speakers, what would you say? What is the most surprising pattern that you've noticed between those who can captivate an audience and those who lose them? Is there something traceable to that?
Yes. I think the most challenging speakers for us to work with are the ones who have done the most talks.
Makes sense.
That or have been coached to speak in a particular way. That can be really hard to undo. So we actually think twice before. Sometimes we will have an amazing idea. And we think, well, we're watching about 120 people at any given time. And sometimes we'll watch people for 2 to 3 years before we invite them to speak. So listening to every interview they've ever done, every podcast, read everything they've ever written, to really make sure we've got the right people. But the people who are hardest, most challenging to coach, and often the people who will lose people in a TEDx audience, are those who, knock it out of the park on the keynote circuit. And it's because they are used to relying on charisma. And so when you bring them into a situation where, TEDx talks are very heavily governed, the reason that the platform is so well respected and has such integrity is, the vetting process that goes through every word that is said on stage. So we will sometimes, have authors, or we'll have, people on the keynote circuit, or sometimes it'll be professors, and they'll have brilliant ideas, but we will get oh, no, I don't need coaching. This is my day job. I'll just rock up and add this into my book tour, or, hey, I've written 17 books. I don't need speech writing. And so, that can be challenging. Usually we weed them out very early in the interview process and they don't get offered a spot. But occasionally their idea is so good, we think this is worth a stab. And so it can be very challenging for them to go through, 18 drafts of us scrutinizing every single word and having people fact check and ask for references and multiple references for every assertion they make. Those who lean into it and embrace it, even if it makes them very uncomfortable at the beginning, will come out the other end. And first of all, they'll be captivating. And we see that in, which of our TEDx talks make it to the editor's pick selection from New York, which is a huge achievement for any TEDx speaker. And one of our speakers, got featured on the homepage of TED.com and has had over 4 million views and landed a book deal.
Nice.
Our TEDxBrisbane talks alone have had over 33 million views. We came to play.
Nice.
But the ones who don't lean in, who resist, they don't do as well. They are thrown on the day. They're not used to, if they don't put in the work, it shows on the day and it doesn't land.
Sure. It looks like anything else. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think there's something particularly about public speaking or the misconceptions about public speaking. Whereas if I was going to go and do a major plumbing exam, or I wanted to be, participate in the world championship of plumbing, I would learn plumbing. I would put in the work. I would learn the theory. I would then do the work. I would listen to experts and do what I was told. But because everyone talks naturally, everyone's speaking all the time. If you go out in public, you're public speaking. There is a perception that, hey, I can just rock up and do this on the day, and nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah. I know, for me personally, I've been an auctioneer for 32 years. I've been in front of millions and millions of people over my career. And if you hand me a microphone in front of the products, cars, real estate that I'm used to doing, no problem, right? It's wrote and scripted. But if we're going to give a BrandFace speech or something, if we're speaking in front of a keynote speaker, or even if we're just on a podcast with something that we're delivering the content, it's practice city. Because you got to be prepared, right? And no matter what that stage is, and know who your audience is, and talking to your audience. And so I totally get everything that you're saying, especially about the people who, I talk in front of people all the time. I give keynotes all the time. Yes, but this is a different animal altogether, and you need to be prepped for that.
We call that a red flag.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But it's a wonderful, I love what you're saying, because it reminds me of one of our TEDx speakers. His name is Dan Allen. His TEDx talk is fantastic. But he talks all the time. It's he and his apprentice, they were carpenters, tradies here in Australia, belovingly called. And unfortunately, one of his friends suicided. And so they decided they would step up and do something about it. So they created a social enterprise that does this really funky, like extremely leery workwear to start conversations about mental health, as well as running a mental health service. And when we were going through the process, because Dan is talking all the time and he's doing toolbox talks. So he's out on construction sites chatting about mental health and tradie health and all the time. And obviously it's very informal and, the language is quite colorful. And so then when you say, okay, but I'm not saying that you're always going to speak like this, but you need this tool in your toolkit. It will serve you incredibly well forever, anytime you're in an appropriate forum for it. And, we to and froed a little bit about it, lovingly. And, and at the end, he loved his talk and he loved the script and he uses it all the time. And he still goes and gives his very authentic, off the cuff conversations when he's out at events and talking to tradies and on the tools and doing toolbox talks. But if he has to get to that point where he is giving an interview or he is, presenting to partners and he needs that different tool, that different glove for a different shot, he's got it. So I think that's the really important thing to know. The way that the script we're giving you is, first of all, not just for the day. Like, this is the content you will have to answer any question or tell any story on this topic for the rest of your life when you're championing it. This is your best script on your best day. But at every other time where you don't need to draw upon it, absolutely do what you've done so far. It's gotten you this far and it's worked for you.
Yeah, it's kind of like that core message that's really, really dialed in to be persuasive. And then you can modify that to your own subjective ways at different points in time, I assume. And speaking of persuasiveness, Juanita, like, what would you say are the characteristics that you guys look for in a speaker that really make one speaker more persuasive than another?
Well, to be very frank, which is me, usually they're not. When we get our hands on them, usually they're just talking. We like to talk about, if you don't know what your strategic intent is when you get on stage, don't. Otherwise, you're just flapping your gums. And there are more strategic things you can do with your time. But we will sit down with them and in our very first, before we get it, offer them a formal invite to speak. One of the final things in the interview is, if everybody in this audience believes what you say, and I'm talking local audience and global audience, and we let them know about our 33 million views. If they listen to your talk and you absolutely persuaded them, what is the action they're going to go and take that will make a difference? So what are they going to say yes to? And sometimes, we'll have to go through there and talk about their target audience. And sometimes people will say, oh, my target audience is as many views as I can get. I'm like, and in some instances it is, but often it's not. We had a young man called Ben McMahon who gave a talk, and it was about a unit. He was an industrial designer, and he had a proposed system that would help people who during rehab after a stroke, because his mother had had a stroke at quite a young age and it had impacted him profoundly. And so we were talking to Ben, and he goes, I suppose his target is as many views as possible. I'm like, wrong. Thanks for playing. And I'm like, what do you need? He goes, I need pilot trials in stroke units. I'm like, great. Then you have a target audience of probably one person in each city around the world, which is whoever can say yes to a stroke trial in the local hospital. I'm like, that's who we're writing our talk to. And yes, let's be engaging and entertaining for the 600 other people are in the room and 33 million potential viewers, but be very, very clear. What do you want that person to say yes to? So know your target audience. What do you need them to say yes to? And then we'll go through the steps. What do you currently think that they know about your particular idea? It might be nothing. They might think bad things about it. There might be misconceptions. Great. That's point A. What are all the things that person needs to hear to make them say yes? I do not care what you think is sexy and exciting. I care about what is the objection handling? What is going to make that person excited and delighted and change their mind or reach out to you and say yes? And then that is what we are going to stick into a persuasive talk, whether it's a TEDx talk or a persuasive keynote or a pitch to a board, whatever it is we're dealing with. But we will not start writing. We will not start brainstorming. We will not start, heaven forbid, opening a PowerPoint deck, step 7, until we have written down, this is my target audience, and this is what the one thing that they are going to say yes to.
I like it. And one more, Juanita, what in an age of shrinking attention spans, is there a secret formula for making your ideas not just understood but remembered
Yes.
that listener out there would need?
So absolutely. The key is to being able to get your idea into 12 words or less. Now, that's enough length that it allows you to give enough context into what you're saying, but it is short enough that someone can remember it, understand it, and then go and tell somebody else. That is an important decision maker. When I explain it to my TEDx speakers and all of my speaking clients, I say, imagine your target audience, the person who has the power to say yes to your idea. For whatever reason, they don't make it to the room. They've got a sick kid, there's an airport delay, but other people, either their assistants or their partners, are in the room. And so what you need to imagine is that after you've given your talk, they then leave, they text, they phone, they run into the hallway with the person who can say yes. And that person says, hey, I just saw this most amazing pitch, talk, speech. And the other person is going to say, what was it about? What comes out of their mouth next, if you have done your job well, will be your 12 words or less. It's one of the most challenging things to do. But once you've nailed it, then it's going to be an absolute game changer. You can imagine for some of us speakers, like PhDs, multiple PhDs, people in very complicated and technical fields, they usually explain their ideas. They come to us, like for TED and TEDx, and they'll say, here's my idea. It'll be like 36 words long and filled with jargon, often very technical and medical. And I'm like, yeah, no. We had one person who was in the police force. He had an amazing new system he introduced, which reduced crime rates and helped a whole range of social issues. And his was very long, his idea, and it had lots of technical lingo in there. And I was like, explain to me what you do. I said, you can have 2 words. Tell me give me 2 words what your idea is about. And he's like, after a while, fighting crime. I'm like, great. I'm going to be really beneficent. And I'm going to give you an extra 2 words. Tell me what it is about your idea as it relates to fighting crime that makes it unique. And he gave me lots of words. And then I'm like, excellent. What I'm hearing there is that everything you're talking about is empathy. And he's like, yes. I'm like, great. Fighting crime with empathy. That's your 4-word idea. Done. And that is his TEDx talk.
Nice.
We have another one with a woman. She's a scientist. Amazing. She's here doing clinical trials in Brisbane. And, it's early stages, but at current, it looks like she may have found a way to kill all 4 strains of the dengue virus and the Zika virus using an extract from an Australian native plant. Which obviously will change the world if that happens. It's going well. But, hers was very technical, lots of molecular biology in the title and jargon. And, we brought it back to killing Zika with an Australian native plant.
Yes.
It says what it is.
Anyone can understand that.
You got to say what it is. It's so important.
Yes. And we have a lot in common on that front, Juanita, because when we work with people in personal branding for their brand identifier, that short tagline or slogan that says, this is the one thing I want to be known for in my space, bingo. Same type of strategy sort of as naming your TEDx talk, right? It has to be very compelling, short to the point. If they don't hear or see anything else, do they still get a good idea of what that person is all about or what that talk is all about, right? So I love that. We could talk to you all day, Juanita.
Yes.
But we'll have you back to do this again. But let's, if you don't mind, tell the audience how they can learn more.
Absolutely. The best way to learn more is to reach out to me. If you go to my website, you can go to fullandfrank.com/tools, and you'll find a number of free downloadable guides and resources there, which can help you get started in public speaking and also learn how to grow your business using public speaking.
Love it.
I love it. And is that the best way to contact you if they want to work with you?
Well, you can do that, or you can reach me directly just at Juanita@fullandfrank.com.
I love it. We'll put those in the show notes for sure. And Juanita, thank you so much for your time. Valuable stuff for the people out there that want to be on a stage and really want to connect with their audience and get a point across that makes a difference.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love everything you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Ready to change how you're seen and charge what you're worth? If you're not getting enough opportunities to meet with ideal customers, or the prospects you're meeting with just aren't ideal, it's most likely your brand that's holding you back. So if you're a coach, consultant, or expert who is on the rise, you need our ultimate guide to a freedom-based brand. Download it free now at brandfaceguide.com.